Congratulations. You did what I always thought you could do. You won. They thought we were done. But now they see. That the real story's only just begun.
This is the last scene of the first season, and pretty much the moment Cobra Kai embraced its wackiness and ridiculous concept. I mean, a high school rivalry that carries on after 3 decades? It's impossible to take it seriously. However, Cobra Kai manages to somehow make it work. Now, season 2 is not as good as the first season. The show got kind of slow. It started focusing a bit more on creating antagonists that make bad things happen and kind of lost a bit of its complex storytelling. Cobra Kai works best when there is no true villain and when the story is neither black or white but rather grey. It's something the first season did much better. Season 3 builds a lot more on Season 2 and doubles down on John Kreese and Cobra Kai, making John Kreese a full-on villain who will stop at nothing to get what he wants. While entertaining and fun, this show was destined to soon become a parody of the 80s action movies rather than a love letter to that era. But then the showrunners made a decision that pretty much saved the show. They decided to go back to basics with Season 4. They decided to once again treat these characters like human beings with real emotions, ambitions, compassion, and most importantly, hearts. This is how Season 4 saved Cobra Kai for me. To me, what really sets Cobra Kai apart from any other TV series out there is definitely its charm. It's got a pretty ridiculous premise where 2 grown-ass men involve little kids in their 30-year-old petty rivalry that results in a massive high school brawl in Season 2, then in another massive brawl in Season 3 in one of the kids' parents' house. Cobra Kai Season 2 took everything that worked in the first season and turned it up to 11. And continued developing the characters through tough choices and consequences, all that while always being entertaining and fun. While on the surface, the show can be seen as a big rivalry between the 2 characters from the original Karate Kid, at its heart, the show is really about trauma. Johnny Lawrence in the first season is a broken man, traumatized by its past. Growing up in an extremely rich family, Johnny had to go home from school every day just to get abused by his stepdad. While Daniel LaRusso grew up without a father, he found a caring and wise father figure in Mr. Miyagi. Johnny Lawrence found John Kreese, who further abuses him physically and mentally. He substituted an abusive father for another. No wonder he was such a dick growing up. Teaching Miguel some karate moves gave him an opportunity to be to someone that both his father and Kreese couldn't be. That's why it was so satisfying seeing him learn from his mistakes and deciding to not let Miguel turn bad in Season 2. I won't lie, Miguel's attitude in the first season's finale kind of turned me off because it felt a little out of character, so seeing them use that moment to further develop Johnny was a nice touch. Because to me, Johnny and Miguel are the heart of the series. They are literally carrying this whole series on their backs, especially in Season 2, where for some odd reason, the writers decided to make a lot of the characters extremely annoying. While Season 2 and 3 developed Johnny and Miguel perfectly, a lot of characters seem to regress. Robbie, for example, appeared to have a lot of potential when the show started. Him rejecting his father while also being jealous that Miguel is getting what he never had was a brilliant setup. But everything changed in Season 3. He nearly killed Miguel, broke the kid's back in some stupid fight, but he never really felt bad about it. Actually, sometimes it feels like he would do it again if he had to.
You do remember what happened the last time we fought, right?
Bruh.
He ran away, then blamed LaRusso for turning him over, blamed his father, Sam, and everyone else, but never once took time to reflect on what he had done. And I have no idea whether that's intentional in the part of the writers or not, but that makes him extremely unlikable to me. And that's the thing I hated the most with season 2 and 3, but especially season 2. It's hard to tell whether some of these choices are made on purpose or it's just sloppy writing. Tori Nichols, for example, doesn't work at all in the previous 2 seasons. Actually, she had been the only character in the series that's way over the top without having any sort of depth until recently. I know they tried to change that in season 3 and succeeded at redeeming her as a character in season 4, but in season 2, her only reason for hating Sam is because she's rich. Which, by the way, to a degree is interesting because Cobra Kai has been kind of doing a good job at exploring the division between social classes. In most high school movies, the rich are always the bullies and despise those they felt were inferior. While it's still present in Cobra Kai as the series replicates most of its 80s themes here, it offers some nuance by having the poor fight back by not waiting to be bullied but being the bullies themselves. However, seeing how great Johnny, Miguel and Robbie were as characters and how well developed they were at that point, it was hugely disappointing having a character like Tori in there, who was not only underdeveloped but also out of place. If we cannot totally understand her point of view in a series where even the most awful person has a well-established backstory, then she doesn't really fit in. She was incredibly underwritten in season 2 and dragged the series down. I also thought they messed up not only Daniel LaRusso, but the entire LaRusso family in season 2. Like I said in my other video, Cobra Kai was really good at keeping its story complex. There wasn't really a bad guy or a person to root against. They made sure that all the characters were both likable and flawed, but I truly believe in season 2, they unintentionally made the LaRusso family totally unlikable, or at least to me. Daniel LaRusso straight up looks down on anyone associated with Johnny, even though he's never met like Miguel, but at the same time, he delivers Mr. Miyagi's speeches about how no one is truly bad, they just need to be shown the right path. Don't even get me started on the spoiled little girl that is Sam. I don't really want to focus on all the high school drama because, to be perfectly honest, that's the least interesting aspect of the show. But Sam until season 4 was kind of annoying too. To be perfectly honest, I've never really been a big fan of the character. I always thought her character lacked depth. She was the pretty girl in the middle of a love triangle, daddy's little princess, and when they tried to give her an antagonist, that character turned out to lack even more depth, which doesn't help her character at all. Both things were successfully rectified in season 4, but we'll get there. I thought another fascinating character in season 2 and 3 was John Kreese, but whatever I thought his character was going to be was shut down by season 3. I didn't think he was meant to be an antagonistic figure. I truly believe he was simply dealing with his own share of trauma, and the second season was just a huge setup for his arc in season 3. And while season 3 confirms Kreese's trauma by exploring his military past, season 3 still hasn't paid off what I thought season 2 set up perfectly. In season 2, Kreese cares about Johnny in his own way, and I think he genuinely believes what he's doing is for his own good. What I was hoping to see in season 3 was Kreese revealing his past trauma to Johnny as they both realize they have to break the cycle by changing their ways. The route they chose to go was disappointing because at the end, the whole conflict felt baseless. John Kreese became the common enemy that forces LaRusso and Johnny to join forces. He also became the first character ever on this show that the audience roots against without ever understanding where he was coming from, and that, to me, made the show lose a bit of its charm. Now it's time to talk about season 4. The season that changed everything in my eyes. the season that solidifies Cobra Kai as one of the greatest series on TV right now, and by far the best legacy sequel ever made. While season 2 and 3 played almost like a parody of 80s martial arts movies, season 4 feels like a celebration of them, which is crazy because out of the 4 seasons, season 4 derives from the worst of all the Karate Kid movies, The Karate Kid Part 3. The Karate Kid Part 2 is also bad, but I think that movie at least has fun elements. Going to Okinawa and seeing where Mr. Miyagi comes from, Daniel LaRusso learns new lessons and grows a bit more than he did in the first one, and the rain scene is absolutely amazing. Probably the best sequence in the entire franchise. And I was so happy that Cobra Kai went back to Okinawa and brought back the characters from that movie such as Kumiko or Chosen. I also absolutely love the fact that Kumiko and Chosen are now good friends, and that Chosen has gone from a delinquent in his youth to a wise old man. It was a nice change of pace considering that people generally grow up to be the exact same people they were as kids in the series. However, I always wondered what the point of that trip was because it didn't seem to have changed Daniel LaRusso at all. After making up with an old enemy, he still came back to clash with Johnny. So the trip felt more like a fan service than something that served the story. Although it looks like Daniel and Chosen are going to team up in season 5, so maybe it was all a setup for that. I don't know. When it comes to the elements they brought back from the Karate Kid Part 3, I think they were utilized a lot better. And of course, I'm talking about the one and only Terry Silver. I was always a big fan of Terry Silver even as a kid. He was sadistic, manipulative, and most of all, he was extremely fun to watch. The character was wasted in what I considered one of the worst scripts ever written.
Let's go! I'll be back, Rooster! I'm gonna kiss you, man, you hear me? You're finished! You're finished! You can't work forever, Buddha!
The Karate Kid Part 3 has many problems, like the pacing is awful, the characters are poorly written, the story structure is all over the place, and the dialogue is ridiculous. All of these problems come strictly down to the scripts. The actors are not really the problem. The direction was decent, the fights were great as usual, but the script was just so bad. Cobra Kai managed to take the one thing from Part 3 that even that awful script couldn't ruin, and that is Thomas Ian Griffith Terry Silver. I've said that many times on social media that Terry Silver has become by far my favorite character in Cobra Kai, and that is for the simple fact that he did two things that really made me happy. He fixed John Kreese and fixed the John Kreese problem the series had. As I've said earlier in this video, John Kreese was a bit disappointing because he was a character that was there purely for the audience to have someone to root against. But we've never really understood him as a person. He was just the evil guy from the Karate Kid, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but given what Cobra Kai was set up to be, the type of character he was didn't really fit the overall theme of Cobra Kai, but that was until Terry Silver came along. Terry is the payoff to the Vietnam story from Kreese we got in season 3. His brother in arms, someone who shares his trauma from war. John Kreese is the soldier that never stopped fighting. The karate tournament was just another war for him, and winning it was a way for him to reaffirm himself, to feel alive.
Sweep the leg.
While all of that was true since season 2, it was never really explored. It was hard to empathize with Kreese when he has never shown empathy to anyone or anything, which changes completely in season 4 when he looks out for Tori, but most importantly, when he stops Terry from hurting Johnny. Even though that kind of contradicts the ending of season 3 where the two nearly killed each other, it was nice seeing Kreese finally show some emotion. Like Terry Silver said, Johnny is Kreese's weakness. He's the closest thing to a son he's ever had, and I've been dying for the show to explore their relationship ever since Kreese came back. And after the ending of season 4, I think we are getting closer to seeing that happening. Terry Silver, also compared to Chris, is just a much better antagonist because his motivations are not based off a 30-year-old petty rivalry. He doesn't even care about LaRusso or Miyagi-Do. He was a perfectly normal guy minding his own business until Chris manipulated him into turning back into his old self. He also saw an opportunity for him to make an old dream of his come true.
The day you step off the plane, you're the biggest dojo operator in the valley.
What do you mean? What are you talking about?
I bought 20 locations today. Yours, 100%. You are back, my man. Bigger and badder than ever.
I've got my agent looking for other locations for when we expand.
Expand.
That's right. I'm making our dream a reality. We're just one tournament victory away.
Terry Silver is currently the most interesting character in the entire show, and for once, Johnny and Miguel don't have to do all the heavy lifting, which is a good change of pace. Season 4 quite honestly made all of the characters better. Tori finally feels less like a caricature and more like a person. I like what they are building between her and Sam's mother, and I hope that eventually it leads to a friendship between her and Sam. I still have issues with Robbie not acknowledging how wrong what he did to Miguel was, but he was a lot more honorable this season. I love how seeing how violent and merciless his student became in such a short time made him realize that what LaRusso warned him about Cobra Kai was actually true. I loved how he went back to his father to bury the hatchets because he was simply tired of blaming him for everything wrong in his life, which is something I wish Daniel did at some point this season, but that never happened, unfortunately. Daniel LaRusso is still the most stubborn and the most annoying character in the series for me. He thinks he's never wrong, and even when proven wrong, he never humbles himself. He has a superiority complex that maybe the writers think is charming. I just find it annoying as hell. With that being said, I love that Sam has pretty much invented a new style of fighting, combining Cobra Kai fighting style and Miyagi-Do's, showing that both styles have their advantages. I hope we get to explore more of that in the next season. I think season 4 was the most emotional and most unpredictable season yet. Everyone was waiting for a rematch between Miguel and Robbie, but what we got is freaking Hawk winning the whole thing. By the way, whoever had the idea of shaving Hawk's mohawk and give him an actual arc that results in a satisfying victory is a pure genius. I absolutely loved Hawk, Dimitri, and all the supporting characters this season. Even the high school drama was handled a lot better this season. Hawk's loneliness as a result of his shitty behavior these past seasons, Dimitri not giving up on his friend, LaRusso's son being the kind of kid his father hated growing up, like everything was so brilliant. But the most emotional part of it all is probably Miguel giving up on the tournament after realizing he wasn't fighting for himself anymore. Johnny and Miguel once again proved to be the best part of the show. This season was just a roller coaster of emotions for both of them. Johnny getting jealous that Miguel spends too much time with LaRusso, Miguel realizing despite everything they've gone through together, Johnny is not his father. They both have been trying to fill gaps in their lives. Johnny failed his son, and Miguel was a way for him to redeem himself. Miguel never knew his father, so Johnny became one for him. But after season 4, they will both have to face their realities. Johnny will have to make up for lost time with Robbie and be a father to him and right his wrongs. Miguel will have to find closure with his own father one way or another. And lastly, Johnny and Miguel will have to define what the relationship truly is and not what they wish it was. Season 4 made all of that possible, and now everything has been set up for a wonderful story going forward. I know it feels like I didn't enjoy Cobra Kai Season 2, but even when they have a flawed season like the second one, they still manage to inject sincerity and art to the series with incredible setup and payoffs that allow all the seasons to improve each other. For example, how the season finale of the first 2 seasons mirror each other is brilliant, with Miguel winning the final fight without honor in the first season, but growing in the second season to be a better person and thus a more honorable fighter, by showing Robbie mercy as he remembered Johnny's teachings. Meanwhile, Robbie completely regressed as a fighter by letting his anger take control and almost killing Miguel in the process, which pays off even more in Season 4 when he sees the same anger in his students. And you know what? Now that I think about it, the way the LaRussos are portrayed may very much be intentional, because the difference between what Miguel learned from Johnny and what Robbie learned from Daniel LaRusso is that Miguel and his sensei experienced life together. Daniel taught Robbie Mr. Miyagi's karate. Johnny taught Miguel how to live a life as a better man. It's not just about karate, it's about how to get the girl, how to treat your friends, how to deal with the heartbreak. Johnny has treated Miguel like a son. That's why those lessons stayed with him. Daniel treated Robbie like a student, and only a student. When the kid needed a father figure, at the first fuck up, LaRusso literally gave up on him. Daniel LaRusso failed Robbie. And now it makes perfect sense to me why the very next season focuses more on Daniel LaRusso as he reinvents himself and rediscovers Mr. Miyagi's philosophy in a way he's never looked at it before. The series doesn't stay consistent in its writing of Daniel because it doesn't seem to have changed that much, but he managed to open the door of his house to Miguel and the others and treated them a lot more like kids, like human beings instead of tools to defeat Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai Season 2 is bonkers. It goes all out with the 80s goofiness, perfectly embodied by characters like Ark. Insanely retro fight scenes like the explosive final fight that involves an entire school. Season 3 is more of the same, but the characters are written a bit better. And while the stakes seem a lot smaller in this season, it allows for great moments that just let the characters be people. The season finale was a bit over the top and had me worried about what the series might become afterwards. Season 4 is the best season of Cobra Kai since Season 1. Everything I didn't like was addressed. Ark was redeemed beautifully. Terry Silver came on and took over the show like a boss. Every important character had an arc, including John Kreese, who is finally getting to where I was expecting his character to be. The annoying characters have been humanized and Season 5 has been set up perfectly. Overall, the series is still going strong and I believe will only get better. Yes, the acting isn't always great. Yes, some of the old actors look rusty when doing fight scenes. Yes, Sam's fight scenes had some bad camera work and the stunt double for Sam was way too noticeable because they don't even have the same body type and look nothing alike. Yes, the series is not for everyone, but Cobra Kai overall is an incredible TV series with extremely likable characters, incredible soundtrack, over-the-top scenarios pulled straight from the 1980s, fun fight scenes, and a real heart. This is a series for people born in the 90s like me that grew up watching martial art films, but could also work for anyone who loves entertaining, fun, and genuinely fun TV series with a true charm that conveying real human emotion. Cobra Kai is that show, and I really cannot wait to talk about Season 5 next. Thanks for watching.
Calling me Daniel the racist on here.